Welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video we're going to talk about our courier experience moving abroad from the UK to Bulgaria, and it starts quite well and it is going to be a little bit of a story, but you're going to want to watch it and listen till the end because it gets really interesting and it's something that is invaluable information to some people who are following a similar journey.
Yeah. So it started pre-Brexit, I think maybe in 2019.
Something around that, yeah.
We sent our first lot of belongings over and it was mostly tools and just
odd things. Like we had like the solar panels, the cooker, just big bulky things, to be honest.
At this point I don't think we really knew when we would be coming over, so it was just kind of a, what have we got? Is it a van load? Let's chuck it in and send it across. So it was a really simple process, and I think we was recommended this woman.
This family business through a friend.
Sorry.
Yeah, and it just went really well, to be honest. It was £1,500 and it was...
really cheap, actually.
Yeah, to say they're driving it by themselves.
Really simple process, chuck it in a van and she drives over here, easy. And within 3.5 days, I think it was here, and you even got the tracking number so you could see her travelling.
Yeah, that was one thing that really helped us settle on our nerves, because we could watch the van going across the world, basically, on Google Maps. And like Anish said, it was pre-Brexit, so there was no tax duties or import taxes, and there was no paperwork. It's like, okay, well, as long as there's nothing illegal and there's no explosives, you're going to have green lights all the way through.
Yeah. So then I think fast forward to 2021, a couple of weeks before we were flying out here ourselves, and we had to do some really deep digging for our second courier, because this is now post-Brexit and there are mountains of loops and hoops to jump through.
And not many people we approached were willing to carry on the courier business because everything was so up in the air. And
there was so much paperwork, so many fees. It just wasn't a simple process, and the overall cost of getting stuff over here like doubled and some, didn't it?
So we found a man in the van. We're not going to name drop any businesses or companies that we've used because it's just not necessary. But if you do want to find out at the end or contact us a bit more personal information, if you are trying to avoid a similar experience, then get in touch personally. We might be able to elaborate a little bit more. So we got in contact with this company maybe 2 or 3 months prior to July 2021. It's like, okay, we're moving out on this date. This is our last day of tenancy in our Leeds apartment. Everything else will be in the lockup, which was near my workplace, about 10-minute drive away from where we lived. And we need we need you to meet us basically on the last day. We have to be out the flat for dinner time or even...
Yeah, it was kind of a... you've got to be here because we have nowhere else to go, and essentially we're homeless. If you don't come and get us or get our stuff, then we're stuck.
Yeah, so you can imagine as we're living closer and closer to that end date, there's less and less stuff in the house. So the last things we needed him to collect from the apartment was like the couch.
It was personal things that we needed for that last night.
Yeah, suitcases and clothes and things like that. And he was going to come, collect us, chuck this big stuff in, and then drive to the lockup and get the rest. Now, the process for this second courier was a lot more technical, like we said. We had to inventorize every single thing of the house, which is weighing it, the estimated approximately value of it in pounds,
the size of the box, the contents of the box, every little detail.
And it had to be accurate as well. So we had to have basically a printed out spreadsheet that we had made with what he required. And like I say, some of it's boxes, but then some of it is a suitcase of clothes. So how can I put an approximate value on these clothes?
Yeah, a lot of these things don't have value to anybody other than us.
It was quite hard, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the day before the courier was due to arrive, we spent the entire day in our lockup, and we had the doors open. It was a nice day, and we were going through everything, double checking everything,
sticking numbers, like big
on the
yellow
boxes.
numbers on all the boxes. Yeah.
Feeling pretty confident that we were really, really organised, and we had this lockup for 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
2 years, and never run into a single problem. Totally safe. Pretty happy that tomorrow's going to come and everything's going to go swimmingly.
And we even rejigged the whole garage. It's like, okay, everything, furniture which has been flat packed, that's all shrink wrapped over there. Mm-hmm. All the boxes are the same size over there. Anything bulkier over here. Everything was super organised. Mm-hmm. So when the guy turned up, it's like, yeah, that on. So 24 hours before he visited, that was the day, basically, finalising the list. Mm-hmm. So we were in the car park of our flat on the day where the courier was going to arrive for approximately 7 hours.
Yeah, so we told him, this is the day we're moving out, and at 12 o'clock we're getting kicked out of our flat. You can arrive whenever you get to us, basically. And we sat outside of our flat. Fortunately, it was a nice day. Sat outside in the car park on our couch.
Yeah.
And we sat and waited for about 7 hours.
And we was in contact, and it was delayed responses, and we're getting a bit panicky. And it's like
we're getting more and more stressed, because it's like, if he doesn't come today, that's it. What are we going to do?
Yeah. So there was delays upon delays that the driver incurred. Mm. Some things could have been avoidable, but that's just life sometimes.
So he turns up in this great big whacking Luton van.
Yeah, big moving van. I'm like, brilliant. That's going to fit everything. Everything's...
And our spirits were lifted yet again. And it's happening. We're moving. We're going.
He's here. It's going now. So I jumped in the van with the driver, and we had a friend chilling with us in the premises of the apartment throughout them 7 hours. So you jumped in her car, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a convoy, 10-minute drive convoy to the garage.
The lockup.
And I pulled up first with the van, didn't I? And he's doing his 3-point turns, whatever. It's a big van. And I get out and I'm walking towards the garage, and the padlock had been cut, and the door was slightly open, and we didn't leave it like that.
So we had been there 24 hours before, and like I say, we were there all day. Somebody in the area had walked past and clocked
it.
That it was a garage full of belongings, and it was valuable to us. But 2 years, not a problem, and 24 hours before we leave, or before it leaves,
it got broken into and ransacked.
Yeah, so we kind of, is this a bad omen?
Yeah.
This is the first step towards our new life, and
it wasn't very nice.
No.
So obviously he's on a schedule, the driver, and it's like we've got Anisha's dad with us, who's just arrived. It's like, okay, well, he can't wait any longer. Whatever's left in the garage still has to go.
And we didn't know what was left, and the whole inventory that we had done, that was very specific, all the numbers, all the boxes,
the total weights and the total approximate values which is needed with the customs, that was all wrong now.
Yeah, and we didn't know what had been taken or what hadn't been taken, and we actually had to take note of the numbers of each box that was going on, and then kind of minus off the numbers that were missing.
To figure out what was taken, yeah.
So there was a number of personal belongings that were taken, and that was the hardest part. That was the heartbreaking part of it, and it took us a little while to get over that. We had a server.
Yeah, we had a family server that I ran in the UK. It was kind of like a backup, and we'd spend endless days scanning in all of our family photographs.
Yeah, it had everything. It was very, very personal to us.
Yeah, very extremely sentimental. It was the huge family tree library of just everything.
And our entire relationship together was on that server.
Yeah.
So that had gone.
there was things we bought for the house, like appliances and
more valuable belongings that
could be replaced.
Yeah. So we weren't too worried about them. It was just annoying the fact that we'd invested into something for our new life and it had been.
Yeah, and so there was also a lot of sentimental stuff that got stolen as well, which was the hard bit. We don't care about the materialistic 10-in-1 blender, for example. It's like, well, hang on a minute, I can rebuy that, but we can't replace this has been taken.
There was also this was a really, really like positive thing. It was you have angels looking out for you every time. I swear down. Mark, obviously we talk about crypto and the fact that our money and our savings is in crypto. Mark had a Ledger
Nano,
which is essentially just a USB stick that is...
It holds your assets off of the internet.
And it's very encrypted, very safe.
Yeah, but it's only as safe without anyone having the password. Basically.
And
so when we packaged the electronics box and writ electronics on the side with the big yellow number, I put the passphrase in with the Ledger Nano. So if anyone is crypto savvy, they'll know, like, whoa, big red flag. You don't put
your password with the
device.
Yeah. But fortunately, a week or two before we moved, Mark had, for some random reason, some angel looking over his shoulder.
I emptied the Nano and put it onto a separate decentralised wallet.
And it only had about £50 left on it.
And the thieves, I could track them, and they did take the £50 off of the Ledger Nano.
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
They figured it out, didn't they?
Yeah. So it was quite heartbreaking, to be honest. And like
it was
I say,
a hard time, wasn't it, for us?
Yeah. So we put what was on the van in the garage back on the van because he wasn't waiting around.
Yep, and he pretty much told us, so back onto the Courier now, pretty much told us that he would be meeting us in Bulgaria when we arrived, because I think it was a couple of weeks and then we would be arriving, he would be arriving shortly after. So we're like, wicked.
Great stuff.
We'll see you there.
So we spend the next couple of days down with Anisha's family, preparing to leave, only with a couple of suitcases on our back, really. And it's like, okay, let's go. Got on the flight, got here. The time where he was supposed to arrive was getting closer and closer, updates, everything seemed okay. But there was like...
Every time we contacted him, there was something
gone
wrong on his side. There was a lot of drama attached to him.
Just surrounded him.
His business, and it was just, I can't make it. I've got to pick up some dogs this week. I've got to wait in England for an extra week because I've got to pick up some dogs by the end of the week.
It's like, okay.
Well, that's got nothing
like,
to do with our belongings.
we need the stuff pretty quick.
We've already been paid.
Yeah, so we ended up waiting, and this is where it gets really frustrating, because we packed everything in the Luton van. We saw which vehicle came, and
we packed it very specifically so that like our personal belongings, maybe breakables, wouldn't get damaged. And he told us that he wouldn't be moving the stuff out of the van.
What goes in will come out exactly the same on the other side. Right, okay.
So basically, after a delay of about, I would say a month and a half, maybe even more.
He finally turns up a month and a half later
with our belongings in a horse box.
And he says, I'm coming out corner in 5 minutes. Nice one, mate. Yeah, see you in a minute. Well, that can't be him, because that's a horse box on the back of a 4x4.
So our belongings have been taken out the Luton van and repacked, probably several times.
Yeah, well, we could tell because the boxes are all damaged.
And the underneath of the sofa, I know it's not a big deal, but I was pretty annoyed. The underneath of the sofa was all scraped.
Scuffed, yeah.
There wasn't any major damages, so we can't really complain. But I was just a bit frustrated that this is something we'd taken pride in. We take pride in all of our belongings.
Yeah. So we opened the horse box. Like, well, from first glance, I know straight away half the stuff's not going to be in there because the couch can't fit in that.
It was rammed to the brim, and everything was stuffed in every corner.
Just dusty, and
yeah.
It wasn't like a converted one or like anything like that. It was literally just a horse box.
So we start pulling the stuff off the van, and we're getting closer and closer to the end.
We're kind of taking things off the list.
No, we weren't.
Or
we weren't. So we're putting everything into one room, and I'm looking around for one specific box, and it's stupid. It was just my crafts box. I was looking for my crafts stuff. Wasn't anything that we needed. It wasn't anything high priority. But I'm like, hang on a minute, my crafts stuff isn't there. And then I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, that isn't there either. So you go to him, don't you, and you say, where's this and where's this? So he turns around and says, well, there's this, and this, maybe 4 or 5 things.
Extra, yeah.
Couldn't fit them in. You were over the weight limit. We know we weren't because we weighed it.
You told us our weight limit was 1.5 ton, and after the stuff got robbed, we know for certain it was underneath 1.5 ton. So don't give us
beep. So he then tells us that there's about 5 items missing, and we're like, okay. We've waited all this time and you haven't brought us everything.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things that he didn't bring us was bedding. And by the time we arrived, bearing in mind in July, so midsummer, by the time he was arriving with our second lot of belongings, our second half of belongings, it was getting cold because Mark was messaging him saying, like, when are you going to be arriving with our stuff? Because we've got bedding in there and we're getting cold.
We've got all the blankets. Like, what do you expect us to do? Like, we need this stuff. Stop messing us about. So we waited a month and a half for the first half, which was all the low priority stuff that we could have lived without. And then another 2 months waiting for him again, and then he pulled up in a minibus with the chairs been taken out of. And it was like, right.
And the thing is, we've heard a lot of other people have some really terrible experiences with couriers. So it was kind of just a potluck thing. And we really researched and we really
asked around.
Yeah, and got some information and tried our best to look out for a really good courier. And unfortunately, it wasn't.
We got stung by it. But like we said, the first experience with the first courier, absolutely flawless, and we'll credit her to the hills, won't we?
Well, unfortunately, that wasn't our most personal belongings.
No, it was just like the bulky stuff, like the cooker and things like that. So
Big Betty's going by.
The big cows, our neighbours' cows, are in the window behind you. So that was our experience. Now there's some English in our village who have used completely different companies. Not so much bad experiences, but still the same rigmarole of paperwork and inventorizing assets and things like that. We have someone who has used an Arctic container truck to bring a load of stuff in one go. So there are many options for people to use. Sometimes it comes down to who you know and word of mouth to make sure you don't get stung. But I will highly recommend asking publicly in these expat groups, whether it's on Facebook, like even if it's a brand new account, if you don't use those social medias, it's worth, because the group has 1,000 members and like 80% of them might have
transported their stuff over here.
Yeah, it's very popular to do. Not many people go 100% minimalist and then buy everything from scratch. Like, if you think of bringing stuff over, then it's standard, everyone else will do it. So we hope this has been a bit of an insightful experience. It's probably the first time where we've actually gone into detail on what it was like before we came.
It was a roller coaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, emotions were very high, especially with the sentimental stuff. Thanks very much for watching, and if you've had any similar experiences or you can vouch for really good experiences with specific companies, feel free to
comment them.
And help people just be a bit more confident, really. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Dobry wieczór.
Divisioning.
Divisioning.